Welcome to our two comic cast for superheroes existing comic book talk is the norm. It's your boy Mo Crosby. I'm joined today with Roy. Has been here in a while, but no, thank you, Roy, for coming through. We
Always
are
a pleasure,
here
Mo.
to talk about the Batman. If you couldn't tell by the banner I had up earlier, we're here to talk about the Batman. Honestly, it was a treat. It was a special treat. I wasn't honestly my expectations were on the floor. I'm like, you know what? It's a DC movie. It's a DC movie within this current DC regime, right? And I'm scared. But oof. I'll stop. I'll let Roy
No, I agree 100%. Maybe I'll come at it from a different way. I guess I enjoyed the last two DC things. Like Suicide Squad, I was
the Suicide Squad on
was fine, and
Peacemaker.
Peacemaker was
Yeah.
excellent. And
Yeah.
so I've been like on a bit more of like the DCEU. Wait, now that Snyder's gone, are they on the upswing? And I mean, I think the thing for me is since The Dark Knight and then the Joker only made this worse, discourse around film Batman has only just gotten endlessly toxic.
Right.
And
Because
like, yeah, go ahead.
in between that, you had the Batfleck. So,
Yeah. Which was
honestly,
bad.
So I again, it's Matt Reeves. I loved his Planet, his ape stuff, and I think after watching Cosmopolis, I don't know if you've seen that, Robert Pattinson. I was like, you know what? He could be Bruce. He could play Bruce. I didn't expect the Bruce Wayne I got in this movie. We're gonna get into that a little bit later,
Yes.
but no, the Batman, thoroughly enjoyed it, and yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I was just really scared that this movie was going to be like every edgelord's Batman, right? Like
The
that
Joker
was what like
was edgy.
the Joker was that, right? And
Yeah.
you know, and I was like so afraid that going into this movie, the whole, but I was felt a little bit better about this movie when they released the theme, because the theme has dichotomy to it. Like on one hand, it's like very like swooping and dark, but then there's these like melancholy, like happy notes.
Yes.
And it's just like, wait. Are they going to remember that there's more to the character of Batman than just like what Frank Miller would have
Sad
said when
boy.
he got mugged? So like the one of the worst legacies of 80s comics is that Frank Miller got mugged when he was living in Hell's Kitchen. And then he wrote a bunch of Batman stories about how he was angry about it. And he wrote a bunch of Daredevil stories about how he was angry about it. And we've been dealing with the legacy of that for like 40 years now.
Yes.
And I'm tired of it. And it's like most toxic over those two characters. I mean, just anyone who follows like the MCU Daredevil discourse, which I sadly follow too much. You really see it. And the discourse around this movie was similar to that. It's like, oh yeah, this is going to be Batman's vengeance and blah. And this movie ends up.
When the first trailer hit and he punched and lights out that guy and he said, "I am vengeance." That was the fear. The fear went into me because I'm like, they're going to lean into Sad Boy and Vengeance, and they might lean into Batfleck. So we're probably going to get Batfleck Part 2 in this. And when I saw that, I was super scared, and I was like, okay, this is probably going to be the worst thing ever. But it's funny you bring up the theme, because I was going to talk about the scoring of this movie before we actually talk about the movie. I personally think this is one of the better modern Batman themes ever. Batman 80, don't get me wrong, Batman 89 and the Batman animated series still hold, the high points. But I think when you had the Dark Knight and Batfleck, I think what those guys who did the scoring for those movies, they forgot that the horns. No, hear me out.
You're right. Yeah, I know.
I think horns are super important in superhero movies, right? Think about the Avengers.
No.
Even before you get into the Avengers, Marvel starts you off with fanfare.
Right, yeah. Well, I think like Hans Zimmer, like he's great, but and he has this kind of like Christopher Nolan, like this thing about the I will talk about comparing this because this movie's clearly in conversation with the Nolan movies for good thing. It learns good things from the Nolan movies.
Yes, it does.
And makes it over the bad things about the Nolan movies.
Yes, 100%.
But we could get to that. But I think like Hans Zimmer's themes are all good for every character but Batman. Like for example, his sound design and his theme for the Joker in Dark Knight is like one of the things that really like makes
that movie.
that makes that movie.
Yes. Yeah, and
But
I was saying Michael Giacchino, like, again, I went back and looked through his stuff, and I forgot that he did Rogue One, and I was like, there's a reason Rogue One is the better a Star Wars story movie.
yeah, I mean, well, there's only been like 2 of them, right? That's like a Star Wars. Like, what are
Wait,
Star Wars story movies?
I thought it was 3 of them.
Is
It's
it
only 2.
Solo?
Solo,
And that movie,
Rogue,
right?
huh?
Right? Because the sequels are not
The
a Star Wars.
Oh, okay, yeah. Lord and
story,
Miller
right?
is it was just the 2. I thought it was 3 of them, but yeah, well, but no, he did that, and I think he looked at the Batman themes again. Nothing wrong with the Hans Zimmer theme from the Dark Knight trilogy. It's just that I think he forgets. I think he forgets the character.
Oh yeah,
and he wants to make it so actiony and so like heavy. And no, you still need to, I hear me out. I think the horns are the most important part of any superhero theme are the horns.
I can see that.
X-Men, Spider-Man, those movies.
Well,
think of any comic book movie that you love and go back and look at the scoring and the horns.
the Avengers theme makes me feel happy every time I hear it.
There you go.
Like inarguably. But I mean, like he's this guy, Michael Giacchino, is that how you say his name? Giacchino, excuse me. He's been on a roll, right? Because he also did the No Way Home theme and all of the home, like the Spider-Man Home trilogy has really, really good music. Like the way in which that new theme that came up for Tom Holland Spider-Man that uses the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man theme, from the cartoon, but like remixes it for the modern era is like one of the best decisions they made in the Tom Holland era. Like so, and he's also doing the music for I think the Thor movie that's coming out.
Yeah,
so like,
and he's set to direct because he's on a roll. He's set to direct, I think, a Marvel show.
Yeah, Werewolf by Night, the Halloween special. Yeah, so like, this guy is
how you knocking it out the park, and this is how like I think they made it, like you said, a really great decision with the guy. And what even makes his scoring work is so everyone, Catwoman has hers,
which
and I think it works. It works for the character, and it works for the movie that. Again, I think she's supposed to be like this sultry, seductive, like film noir type. She's not a damsel in distress, and I think you could tell from her scoring, her theme, because it builds. It starts off soft and it builds. I will never listen to Ave Maria the same ever again.
Yeah. Well, I think go back to the Batman theme, and I think because it ties to the Catwoman theme, right? Like, the fact that the Batman theme works for both the quiet moments between him and Catwoman or him and Alfred, and then also like at the ending when Bruce does the full like Batman thing where he bursts into the stadium and it blasts the theme, and I'm like, I literally like did it like, oh, it's like, it's like, yeah, it's like, okay, like.
What's really great about that? Because he could have done that. He could have blasted the theme at the chase scene, but he decided not to.
Yeah, the music is just so well done in this movie.
It's so well done in this movie. And since we're on the theme, we could talk about the sound. And what I think works very well again in this movie is the fact that the suit was mic'd up and his boots were mic'd up. Listen, I don't know if it was just myself, but I caught some Spurs. Every Western movie has Spurs jangling like when they come. Did you catch that?
Yeah, and well, just the fact that the suit like has this physicality to it is it like adds this extra like gravitas to the scenes that Batman is interacting with like normal people, and like somewhat like disrupts, like it reminds you that there's something like disturbing about the fact that this man dressed like a bat like hanging out with it brings you back to the fact that like there's something extra about Batman, and it like makes you feel like you're very physically like Batman is physically present in a way that, and a physicality to the suit that like again the Nolan era, famously Bale can't move his head, right? And that's the same is also true in all of the like Burton era ones and the Schumacher, right? Like up to the Batfleck era, like Batman, like the actors couldn't really move, and so like when Batman was not in an action sequence, he was very like stiff and like. But Pattinson and the suit was so well designed, and the physicality that the sound design created for like really makes you feel like Batman is there, and Pattinson is able to act. And he's able to act with like how he moves his body, and since the noise is captured, it adds a whole different level to his performance that none of the other Batmen even the other good ones, like were
Yes.
able to do. And it's just like really just makes those scenes, those like 7 style scenes, like have an extra weight to them that I think is really cool.
Yeah, again, I'm with you on the suit. I love that it feels weighted. It probably isn't weighted, but it just feels very. It feels solid.
Mhm.
There's something about a Batman suit that should feel solid, right? It should feel like you can't punch the Batman square in his chest, right? I feel Batfleck for everything that that suit looks the way it looks. I just don't. I don't necessarily feel like I like a clothy looking suit, but I also don't like a leather, like or rubber like the Burton suits. I don't like that rubber feeling bulky suit.
Right.
This suit takes the Bale suit, the broken down Bale suit and just modifies it to, and again, as you said, the cowl, like that little collar, giving him the ability to move his head. And can we talk about the ears?
The ears are good.
Let's never do short ears again. Let's never do short ears again. Let's never do a fat bat symbol. Let's never do those things again.
I mean, the fat bat symbol, like, I don't know, like I've got no.
That was made to fit Superman, and that was really made to fit that Superman logo for BVS.
Yes, it was. Like
nothing.
Like, I mean, it's also like just like again Snyder being obsessed with the like 80s Miller material.
Yeah.
And this is much more. I won't even say it's like I don't think the suit's like really comics accurate. I think the only person who has like a comics-ish accurate costume in this is Selena.
Yes.
But it's definitely one that I think it's kind of trying to do what the Bale suit was trying to do, which is like what would a realistic Batman suit do? But it like we moved, I guess, costuming and been able to give Pattinson like the ability to act in the suit that Bale never had. Right, which is like it's like such a huge gift because Bale is. I think if Bale had a suit like this, I think him as Batman would like when they were in the suit would have I think had a better reception than.
Yeah. I think because after watching this movie, I decided to go back and look at the Batman Begins because a lot of comparisons were, this movie is Batman Begins Junior or Batman Begins Light or just a step, a sequel. Batman Begins.
I mean, you theoretically could be a sequel to Batman Begins, like,
right?
It's not so far,
but it's not that far. But again, you're watching Batman Begins, and there's a lot of perching.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of movement.
Yeah, because he can't move. Like that's he can't move.
And then the other thing is in Batman Begins, there's this scene. Okay, my favorite scene. You know what? Let me not get too far ahead of myself. So we've talked about the costume. Selena's costume, I think, was amazing.
I hated the hat though. The hat, like the like, I wish they'd just given her
the Scully. Right.
Yeah, like,
right.
I hated that. Like they should just given her like the first time when she does it, I was like, okay, that's fine. But like once she's like hanging out with Batman more, I'm like, give her a. Like,
you think he'd be like, hey,
she creates one. Like I just like it just looks so because they.
But she's still broken. This.
Yeah,
she's still poor.
Yeah, that's fair. But it's just
maybe the next time we see her. But no,
I mean, hopefully she's in the sequel. I mean, we could talk about this in the end. But like, I would be really upset if Selena's not in the next one because this was.
Welcome, Perry.
Hey, I'm sorry I'm late.
No, you're good. You're good. You're jumping in we're talking costuming at this point. We just went through the Batman costume. Just real quick, let us know how you feel about it. Like when you first saw it in action.
I actually liked it. His movement looked really good. The only thing that was a little weird to me was like the neck, how it kind of like tucked in a little bit and then kind of went up. But other than that was like a small thing. But other than that, I really loved the suit. He looked like he moved really well in it, actually. Man, I've never seen a Batman costume take so much hits like that. That's what I would say. It was like a tank. He was
tanking bullets.
Yeah, he was taking bullets. Yeah, it was great. I really liked it. It was very interesting. Also like a small thing that I don't know if you talked about plot, but at the end,
we haven't gotten to that point yet.
Yeah, but when he used the certain serum, and he had like functionality in the suit to actually use,
Adrenaline?
you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's also something really cool that they showed that he had a special thing to inject himself in the suit. That was cool.
Yes,
I
Ray,
liked
we're
it.
streaming. Have you seen the movie, Ray, or nah? Because if you haven't, we're going to spoil it. Don't want to spoil it for you.
Soon, yeah.
Yeah,
We actually haven't
really
really spoiled it.
Yeah, we haven't gone into spoiler territory yet. Just.
Okay, my bad.
No, you haven't.
No,
done
it's
anything
not
wrong.
you.
You
I'm
haven't spoiled
talking.
anything.
I'm
Yeah.
talking to Ray. We haven't spoiled anything. But
You
yeah,
haven't spoiled anything.
so Roy was talking about. Okay, let me make the full introductions. Paris, Roy,
Nice
Paris.
to meet you, bro.
Nice to meet you, Paris.
Paris is my friend from college. We debate
Nice.
comic books and Marvel versus DC. And,
All the time.
it's kind of surprising that we like a movie, the same movie,
Together, yeah.
to get at the same time. So I was like, no, we have to get you on here to talk about this because it's probably never happen again.
But
Roy was. Go ahead.
no, we're talking about the Catwoman suit, right? That's
Yeah,
what
Roy
go
was
ahead,
talking
go
about the Catwoman suit and how like I liked the suit. I liked her suit, but then we were talking about her head
Mask?
Like,
yeah. I hated her mask. Like I hated it in the
Yeah,
trailer. I hated it in the movie, and it was just like because it has this awesome adaptation of the comic suit, and
Yeah.
Zoe Kravitz like pulls it off, and you're just like awesome. And then she has the stupid head thing, and it just
Yeah,
like,
it was like
it's like
it was just
no.
it was just like a regular
Yeah,
kind of
like,
knit hat that was cut up to look like a
yeah.
mask. It was
Uh,
okay, but it was
Ray
like
says we're good to go with spoilers. All right, so let's get into it then.
Spoiler
So,
alert. That's
yes.
the movie.
yeah, but I get what you mean by the mask though. It was kind of like I wish they would have did a little bit more with it.
The goggles, maybe.
The goggles.
Something, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
the goggles might have helped. Like
Mhm.
like going back to
TDK.
Dark Knight Rises,
Hathaways.
Yeah.
Catwoman.
Hathaways with the flip up kind of thing. That was
I liked that.
That was so
Yeah, I thought
cool,
that was
man.
sick.
That was something they could have kind of took inspiration from. It kind of felt. I mean, if you think about it, if this is her early years, I guess this is, the best she could do at this point in time, maybe.
She's
But
still
it
very
was like-
poor.
It was It was.
But she has this like amazing cat suit. But
Right,
And
you
then
had this-
I know that bike is not cheap.
you got
Yeah,
a
that
fully
bike's-
functional whip. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? But
Yeah.
you the thing that you're trying to use to disguise yourself is just a knit hat that was cut up. Was kind of like, okay,
It's like, it just stands. It just stood out to me, like because it's literally
Right.
the costuming. I mean, I guess we can move on and talk about the Riddler costume,
Yeah,
which is probably the biggest,
where we are. Yeah,
the biggest departure
Yeah.
from the source material. I mean, I think it fits the universe though. Like the,
Yeah,
the
it does.
I'll go with that. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, like,
I'm not gonna lie. I wanted a question mark suit. Listen, I don't care, or at least a cane. I wanted something that would be like, I felt it. This felt very Son of Sam, very Seven. I wanted
7. Yeah, definitely.
if we were going to do the Riddler, and I don't care. You want to make it realistic. Give him a suit. What was a suit? A green suit won't hurt anybody.
it was very hush. It was very hush,
Huh.
and
Yeah, I see that.
I kind of felt like that was what they, even though that wasn't him in the comic books, they kind of drew that inspiration from Hush in terms of the suit. Because it's still kind of a Riddler central kind of, story. So I feel like that's what they did. But hopefully if we should be seeing him again, I would expect that they would kind of branch off from what they did. But yeah, it was okay.
I think it's the most forgettable part of, like, it's in terms of costuming, it's the most forgettable one.
You also have to think that, like, it was also, I get that it was kind of forgettable, but then it was like, I think in a sense it had to be generic because multiple people used the costume. It
Right.
wasn't-
I think that's a really good point, Paris.
Yeah, it wasn't just him.
I think it's supposed to be kind of like a uniform, right?
Right.
Because one of the things that, I mean, this is big spoiler territory.
Yeah,
like,
big spoiler.
I liked about this was like that twist at the end of like that the Riddler is also
guys.
a Riddler movement.
Yeah.
Which is like, so that turns it into a uniform, which I thought was like a really cool like twist.
Right.
Yeah. So he could have henchmen moving forward.
He could.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think what this movie does,
think about it like that.
What this movie does is really harp on the idea that a lot of these criminals inspire gangs. You know what I mean? And that it even kind of hints at, those when you see the first opening scene, spoiler alert, and you see this gang, you see them in the clown makeup, you kind of think, oh man, where they get that from. You kind of think Arkham Knight, you kind of think Arkham City, the video game and stuff like that, how everybody, certain gangs were in there, they dressed as their leader, you know what I mean? So I think that's kind of what they were getting at with the Riddler stuff. So yeah, that was
okay.
I was okay.
That
I was
make
okay
sense.
with, I was okay with
that
it, but I would agree they'd have to they need to expand on it a little bit, because I feel like this universe has this authenticity to Batman, in a classic way a little bit, and so I would want to see a little bit more to the Riddler's costume too. I would like to see a little bit question marks and a little bit more.
Be dope.
A slightly more vibrant green. Yeah.
There was a hint, like they did kind of show you the question mark when you went to the website.
Right.
URL Rada Alada. So that was there. It was just a one time, but it's probably, hopefully, the Riddler, and it becomes more of a thing. But I want to talk about my second favorite character in this movie real quick. Let's move into characters real quick.
Wait, who was your
guy
favorite?
right here? Oh, okay. No, let's before we get there. But no, can we talk about this guy right here? Colin Farrell, I think, stole every scene he was in.
That was my favorite character. That's why I was like, who's your first? That was my favorite character. Like, as soon as I saw him on screen, I was like, okay, I see why they want to do a show with this character. Like, yeah, please give me more. Absolutely.
Colin Farrell watched a lot of Robert De Niro movies before he did this, because he's just like doing a Robert De Niro impression the whole movie.
It was, yeah.
It's one of the yeah, it's just like, it's not even like, I love it, like, because it's a moment, like all of his scenes have a little bit more levity to them.
Yes.
And like, I think my main criticism of this movie is like, it could use like just like a little bit more humor and self-awareness. Like, it's sometimes like a little too serious, right? And the nice thing about the Colin Farrell Penguin scenes is there is that like levity to it that like kind of is like, oh yeah, there, you are supposed to be, this isn't actually Seven, this isn't actually
yes, it's still a comic book.
I'm so
Zodiac,
glad somebody mentioned that, because
Zodiac.
I was like, it did feel a little, it had a Seven kind of feel. It did.
And so it's not that, it's this is a movie about Batman, like it's supposed to be fun too, right? Like, and so and that's what I really liked about Colin Farrell was he did embody a version of the Penguin. Although someone, I forget, he might have been my wife or one of my friends that we saw with it. It was like this character, and he doesn't even really seem like the Penguin, and why he was called the Penguin. He just kind of like interchangeably.
You could have made him
doing a Robert De Niro impression.
Yeah, gangster number one. Yeah, I think it's the limp.
Yeah. It was the limp,
The limp,
and the nose,
and the facial scarring,
and the nose and the scarring, yeah. So, but I mean, it was definitely a very strong performance, and I can definitely see why HBO Max is gonna.
And he did run the Iceberg Lounge, I guess.
Which that was the Penguin. Like, there was lots of Penguin trappings around him.
Yeah.
But whenever you were in with Colin Farrell, you're like,
I guess he'll become the Penguin in the HBO Max series.
Yeah. I think that
origin. This was kind of like an origin story to him, because at this point he's still like under Falcone.
He's just Oswald. He's Oz. He's not even Penguin for real.
The movie made sure they called him Oz every time you saw him on screen.
Every time you see him, yep.
Yeah. Speaking of, do we talk about Falcone? I think I did like the choice of the story they went with him. I don't know. I just feel like he is such a big Batman character. It's not. He's more of a shadowy, but like you almost never get like full on stories with him, except for I think the Long Halloween was when he was a major player, and I did like the story with him and Bruce's parents. It's always funny to me when they do, like when I see Bruce's parents, go through that route. I think Telltale did it.
Yes, they did.
And it was amazing in Telltale. And I don't know who else did it. Like who? I know there's another.
Telltale's the big one, right? That's the biggest.
Yeah, Telltale's the biggest. Yeah,
and they've occasionally, like the comics. Occasionally
certain comics have
like nothing. The one where, like, for a while Bane might have been Batman's half brother. Like there's a lot of stupid storylines that they've done with the Waynes. Like
but I think Telltale's the best one, and I liked how they kind of adapted this into this, and still found a way to be like, no, the Waynes are still like good.
Yeah.
Well,
like they figured out how to make that part of it where they rationalized them. What they did for Falcone and stuff like that, it was like a rationale thing. It wasn't really like
being very real. They're still pieces of shit. Like
right.
Why would you go to Falcone to solve something for you?
Yeah.
I think it ties into like kind of one of the sub themes of this movie that sometimes works, sometimes doesn't work, which is like the unintended consequences of powerful people. Right. And like that even well-meaning people like can have a moment of weakness that causes like all kinds of unintentional consequences. And Thomas like panicking about his wife, and being afraid that this could cause his wife to spiral further out of control and negatively impact his son, cause him to panic and unleashes all of this stuff, right? And you can argue that like Batman going around and screaming about how he's vengeance and beating up people helps, like, brings out the Riddler and like it's something that like Catwoman is kind of trying to be the through character about this. And I think it's an interesting theme, and I think it's really good space to explore with Batman in like the 21st century, like, because like a lot of people are like, why does Bruce Wayne just not give all his money to everyone if he wants to solve problems? Right? It's like trying to play space.
I love how they kind of tackle that in here. It's like he could. It's $1 billion fund, but then without oversight and without everything, then this is what happens. But before we jump into that story point real quick, Bruce Wayne, the Waynes. That whole storyline. Do you think? I know this is kind of getting ahead. Do you think they're trying to set up Court of Owls?
They could be. Pattinson said he wanted to do it. I don't know what
he
did.
In this universe, you could essentially pull that off just because it's kind of that's a very Gotham grounded-esque kind of story. They kept it really dark, really to just Gotham. It didn't seem bigger than Gotham. It didn't seem bigger than Batman. It just felt so about the city. You know what I mean? And with developing all the characters of the city, Court of Owls would be a good way to kind of delve deeper into that history of Gotham. It's funny. I wanted to mention right after Roy about Batman. One of the best parts was like because I'm gonna say Pattinson is Batman, and as Batman he's learning who Bruce Wayne is. He kind of forgot that. And one thing, I had a conversation with a friend, and we said that like he's Batman, and he realizes that Bruce Wayne can open more doors than some doors that Batman can't. And that's what he was like learning. Like it was really cool for him to realize, oh, I can use Bruce Wayne to find out information for Batman. It was like that kind of thing. And that is something that will have him embrace being Bruce Wayne in public and all the other stuff, because it's really like he didn't want to be Bruce Wayne. He didn't care nothing about Bruce Wayne. Side note, the random scene when he had to go talk to Alfred during the daytime, and like it's like so bright he had to put on sunglasses, but it's just it's just daytime.
I thought that was perfect.
That was so great, man. I loved it.
Let's jump into the story then.
Wait, one more thing about the Court of Owls real quick. I think that it's a natural way, because one of the things Snyder did was he grafted Dick Grayson onto the Court of Owls, and if they're looking for like an organic way to tie Dick in and create space for Robin, like having the Court of Owls being one of the points that introduces and creates stakes for like a teenage Dick Grayson, if the Court of Owls are involved in killing his parents, which is where I think the current status of the Graysons dying is the Court of Owls has something to do with that. And so like I think that is a way to introduce Dick if they choose to introduce Robin, which both Pattinson and Reeves had said that is something they're interested in doing in a sequel. And I said this in our chat, is like I actually think this is the first film Batman that like Robin fits. Like you could actually because where he ends, and that this could be like where Batman ends is the most organically comic book Batman I think of any of the movies.
Right.
So
absolutely.
So hopping into the story, I think one thing I want to talk about before we get into the story, I think the introduction of Batman in this might be when I saw this movie, I saw it at a screening and we couldn't talk about it for like a week. So I'm sitting with all my thoughts, which is why as soon as the embargo lifted, because I wasn't gonna throw it in the chat, but as soon as the embargo lifted, I threw it in the chat and I was like, this is the first best Batman I've ever seen. And I think the reason I said that was because the introduction of Batman, the movie starts off with the Riddler scene, right, with the mayor, but then it shifts to that. That Batman, I've been out here for 2 years. There's nothing I'm doing. I'm not really solving anything. But when that light hits the sky, and I think they go to show you all the criminals doing petty crimes. Nothing that would really interest the Batman per se, or this Batman. And then you get to the point that train scene, which was in the trailer, but then you don't see the buildup. I guess what you don't see in the trailer is the whole build up to that train scene where he's walking. It's quiet, and you hear the steps again, which I love. And then you see him, and then it's on. I think because after seeing this movie, I went back and I saw the Nolan movie, Batman Begins. The first time you see Batman, it's in the Nolan Batman Begins. It's in the shipping yards. It was cool.
It's cool.
Yeah, see, but the first time you see Batman here, I think there's that Batman is Ninja Batman. Right? This is not Ninja He's not doing.
This is force of nature Batman.
Like,
it's one of the things I loved about this movie was that like when Batman's like, all right, it's time to be Batman. Like he just plows through people. Like it's just like okay, Batman is a force of nature, and
you're not stopping him.
You're not stopping him as soon as he decides to be Batman.
Yeah,
right? And it's all this like build up of like, okay, he's got to figure out who does he unleash Batman towards, and then once he does, it's just like doesn't stop. And that's no problem. That's what I love about this version of Batman, and it's clear from like that first scene with the Joker inspired social media gang. That's just like when Batman's like, it's bat time. You're like you better get out of his way.
That scene is really good because as the monologue goes on, they used him talking about it, but then the actual scene and shots to build up the actual fear of the different several criminal characters. And it's funny. I don't think he talks about the shadows a lot in his previous movies, but you never really understand like people really believe he's in the shadows when he's not there. Like he's really the boogeyman. Like and that was like they stamped that right in the beginning of this movie.
And I feel this is the first time you actually see it, and you see people being scared of the shadows. Usually, like I said, great point, because in the Nolan Batman movie, he was there and he would make a little noise, But in this movie, when the dude dropped the paint can and it rolled into the shadows, and he was like, "Nah,
not worth it."
He was done. Yeah.
You know what? I got my Xbox. Like, you know what?
Yeah,
FIFA's looking a lot nicer.
This is not worth it.
Yeah.
And so I think this movie does. And again, what even makes that whole intro very interesting, we talked about this earlier, was the scoring of it. Yes. It starts off very mellow, and then it builds a little bit, and then when you see him, it hits, and you're like, okay, I'm kind of scared. Like,
yeah.
And it's funny that the Joker gang wasn't scared, but
but the one kid who wasn't fully a gang member was definitely scared.
He was like, I didn't wait. You know what? I thought this thing I saw on TikTok was funny. All right. And
Right.
I didn't realize that the Batman was gonna come and kick the shit out of all these people.
Because it's usually like, oh, he's not always here. We can get away with this, right? And
Right.
then you see him and it's like, nah, that ain't him. That's not the Batman.
That's not him.
And oh crap, it is him. And then the dude pulls out the gun. And again, okay, let's get into the story real quick. So the story is what the story is, right? The Riddler is killing people and leaving clues. He's not just killing people, he's killing high-ranking city officials. He kills the mayor, he kills the chief of police, or the chief of
the
police?
DA,
Chief of police, yeah.
And then the DA, and finally,
he tries to kill Bruce Wayne.
He tries to kill Bruce Wayne, and then finally he kills Falcone. Let me say one thing first before we go in. So there's this line that Catwoman delivers, and I know it triggered a bunch of people. And I thought it was a when I heard the line the first time, I was like, I cannot believe Matt. And then I was like, did I hear it right? So I saw it again, and I heard, and I was like, I cannot believe Matt Reeves let her say this in this climate, in this movie. He's killing Rich Elite anyway. Like, maybe he's doing the right thing. And I was like,
right.
And there's fallout with it, but
there should. I mean, there should. Well, I mean,
there shouldn't be.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. Yeah, I think this movie.
At the end, we'll talk about the whatever. But I think the story in this movie, again, for what this Matt Reeves is trying to establish with this world, for the spinoffs and everything, the story of this movie for me is one of the better Batman stories because it works well for this world. Would it work in any other Batman or with any other Probably not. But the only drawback to me is there's a little drag in this, right? There's a little drag. Question: did the drag bother you?
It did for me a little bit, only because like when you're in, it's like 90% of this movie, maybe more, was like dark, right? Mm-hmm. And so when you're dragging a movie that long and the every scene is dark, you get a little tired. I was a little drowsy in there, you know what I mean? So I'm not saying that not the plot points, but maybe some of the scenes could have been cut just a little bit or trimmed here and there. Nothing crazy, but it did drag a little bit, and it wasn't really until like maybe the second act. The first and third were fine. It's like somewhere in the second act, if they could have trimmed it a little bit, it'd have been fine. But other than that, it wasn't like a killer. You know what I mean? It's not like it's one of those things where I could watch this movie again, which I did. I watched it twice already, but it's like I can do it again. Like it's not a deal breaker for the movie. Yeah.
I mean, I agree. I think definitely the second act could have probably used a more extended Batman scene. Like I think. Like, because one of the nice things I felt about the scenes, where he's Batmaning, is it injected a little bit of adrenaline in some of those smaller parts. And I think like maybe one more minor like Batman beating up goon scene could have made. I think you're right that the second act is kind of like a little sluggish. But I mean, and to be fair, it borrows that from the movies it's most inspired by that are Batman movies. Right?
That's true.
Seven and Zodiac are exactly the same way. Like they start off. Right. Kind of interesting.
Zodiac, that's the other movie
and then the end is really like, what's in the box? And it's always the middle. It kind of gets a little like these thrillers,
right.
Like, and that's true to the and Reeves is also really inspired by 70s thrillers, and they also have that problem too. Like, if you've ever I think it's like partially the fault of the genre that he's trying to adapt. Both the superhero genre also suffers from that sometimes too.
Right.
So
because this is not the first superhero 3 hour or two almost 3 hour movie ever.
This
is the one where it's not 100% action. There's there's a lot more slow and draw down scenes. How did you guys feel about? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just random. There's a reason for that, and it's just because I think this movie really plays heavy on two things. Like it's very early years Batman, so he's really learning as he goes, you know what I mean? And they really, I loved it. The detective mode Batman like they've used in here, they really showed like how serious he is about his detective stuff. And I loved it. Like The contact concept
I was
was a
waiting for
great
someone
idea.
to bring that up.
It was
I
a
was
great
waiting for
idea. We should have
somebody to
talked
bring
about it
that
during
up.
costume because that was a costume piece. You know what I mean?
True,
But it was
true.
a great idea because like when they talk when we have the arguments about Batman and prep time, this is what they mean. Like this is his prep time. He studies everything, and he doesn't just study it. He writes it down and rereads it, and it's just yes, please give me more of this detective Batman.
I mean, I agree.
But that's why they did it this way because this is this took more detective work and a little less of the brutality and fighting of Batman. I mean, we got that, but it was just like, yo, we need to make sure we're showing he's being a detective here. So
Real quick, back to costuming. So the biggest thing, I don't know if you guys know this, but about Batman is this argument on the lenses, white lens or white eyes.
Yeah.
I think this movie settled that. We don't need that.
I liked it. I thought I was fine with it. I don't understand. I didn't need the white eyes kind of.
Right.
It's not necessary.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not.
There's something
arguments that they make.
It's something so like scary to see, and there's an actual human behind that mask. You know what I mean?
Right.
That tearing your ass up. Like it's just
it does not stop. Right?
Yeah, it does not stop.
So yeah, how do you guys feel about the story? How did Roy? How did you feel about the story itself?
The story itself, like the whole thrust of it. I really enjoyed it. Like I agree with Paris because like my whole life I wanted a detective Batman, right? Like I really enjoy detective Batman stories, and I think that we finally got one. Like so many Batman movies, like from The Dark Knight, like is the big one, right? That kind of promised that Batman is going to solve, like, and none of them have ever even tried to deliver it. Like,
I mean, he did like do the thing with the bullet, and
he does. Like, I just watched Dark Knight Rises too.
Yeah.
As you know, like Dark Knight Rises is my favorite Batman movie. Like I recently rewatched it. Whenever I feel anxious, I watch that movie. And he does like a brief thing about like who's Catwoman and who's Bane. Like that's like detecting. It's not really detecting. It's just exposition.
No, if he was being a detective in that movie, he would have figured out that the person he was giving his company to was
like it's just not. It's just like there's no actual detecting, right? It's always the detecting Batman does is just exposition, right?
Yeah,
and here it like is central to what to the whole movie, right? Like it's one of the pillars of the movie, alongside the question of like, what does Batman mean, right? Which is like once they do a really good job, instead of smacking you in the face with it like Nolan does, like it's like an underlying theme until the climax, right? Like, and that's one of the things I really enjoy. There we go. Enjoyed about this movie.
Right. No, and
absolutely.
So that is the B story of the movie. The A story of the movie obviously is the Riddler portion of it, but the B story is who is Batman? Not necessarily like who is under the cowl, but who is Batman? He starts out as vengeance, as this very angry person, and I think the scene that to me broke that wasn't. Everyone is like, oh, the scene at the end, but the conversation with him and Alfred, I think personally, kind of breaks him a little bit because he reveals something to Alfred, which I don't think any other Batman would ever, or any other live action Batman has ever revealed. Like, I've tried to get fear out of myself, right? But this is the one time this is the one thing that I was super scared of. Like, I was scared I was going to lose someone that I cared about. And I think that scene, moving on from that portion of the movie, I think you start to see a different Bruce Wayne, a different Batman till the end of the movie. And but the best thing I like, the other thing I really, really love about the movie and the story is that it makes sure to tell you, I don't use guns.
Yeah.
More than one occasion.
And we also don't kill people.
I
don't kill people, right?
Yeah.
And you see him saving criminals, right?
Right.
But
and even that joke with I think there was a little bit of a joke with him and Gordon, and he's like,
that's your thing, man.
He's like, I before we move on, can we talk about these two guys right here?
Yeah.
Jeffrey Wright. I think this movie deals a lot of with relationships. I think Jeffrey Wright's relationship with Gordon's relationship with Batman. One of the better relationships in this movie. I feel cheated because I didn't get a lot of this. And that
we got more Gordon and Batman more. I agree.
Yeah.
Yep, it's definitely like the most. Well, he does spend like a third of the movie out of action, right? Like it is the least Alfred centric, like because it's very much the opposite of the Bale films, right? Like where the central relationship for Batman in those movies is Alfred.
This is Alfred, yeah.
And the final emotional moment of the Nolan trilogy is between him and Alfred, right? Yeah. And in this, and where Gary Oldman's Gordon is really good. Like I really like Gary Oldman's Gordon, but like he's basically kind of playing the role that Alfred plays in this movie, which is like kind of a little bit of a foil for Batman, and like, but not so much like as much a central character to his journey, the way in which like Gordon is in this. And Jeffrey Wright just like knocks it out of the park.
Listen, knocks it out.
I think I think the reason why we didn't get a lot of Alfred is because we didn't get a lot of Bruce Wayne, and Bruce Wayne is specifically linked to Alfred, and that's, I think moving forward we probably will, because we're gonna have to get more Bruce Wayne. I think the reason why they gave so much Gordon is because he is Batman, so that's where he wants to be most of his time, so he's gonna be around Gordon a little bit more. And it's funny, like, because this is early years Batman, I love that like Gordon had to help him get out of places. You know what I mean? Like, Batman couldn't just disappear all the time. Like sometimes Gordon really had to like, we gotta go. We gotta get you out of here. They're gonna take you. That stuff is like really helps highlight where the character is in his development. You know what I mean? That was dope. But I think that's why. I think, to me, that's why we got more Gordon than we got Alfred, is because they assist two different characters. Alfred helps Batman in a way, but he also is more of a mentor to Bruce Wayne than more so Batman. If he's helping Batman, he's like helping Batman solve something. But if he's helping Bruce Wayne, he's being a dad. You know what I mean? And we don't really. Since Bruce Wayne wasn't here that much, it was like, okay, we're not going to get too much of Alfred. And
it's also related to like they get rid of the man in the chair trope for Batman, which Michael Caine's Batman does in the Bale movies and does in the comics all the time, right? Like, and so I think part of the decision, the realism decision here, is to like get rid of that, and they may bring it back in a future film. But I did like Andy Serkis's.
Yeah, I did. I did like the portrayal of Alfred. I just wish we got a lot more of it. Definitely a father figure to him, regardless if Bruce thinks otherwise. No, he did. He is a father figure to him, because he did make. That was a point he made to mention, is like, I should have been there. I should have been there more for you. I should have helped you out in your development as a child. I could teach you how to fight, but I can't be a father to you. And I think, again, with the comment Bruce made to him in the hospital, was like, I was scared of losing someone I care about. It alludes to the fact that Bruce kind of looks up to Alfred in a sense, like, what?
I definitely
father figure-esque.
I think that scene between them at the end, where they hold hands at the end, like it's meant to undermine that whole scene that the commenter did earlier, where it's like, you're not my father, actually you are my dad, right? And that's something that I think Bruce needed to be reminded of, right? Like, and I do agree with you, Mo, earlier, that like when he admits, like, I'm not afraid for myself anymore.
Right.
And
I could die tomorrow. Like,
right.
But I am afraid for the people that I care about. And that's like, I was like, when they said that, I was like, holy shit. Like, yeah, that's comic book Batman, right? Like, that's what makes the character so like powerful across multitudes of different interpretations.
I wonder who that is. That's a funny comment. I do wonder who that is. But no. Okay, moving on. I think we should get to the next relationship in the movie, and one of actually my favorite relationships. Again, I did love Jeffrey Wright and Pattinson together, but I think this, honestly, I am a fan of Bat and Cat, right? I am a fan, and I want to see Bat and Cat be done well. And it was.
Yeah.
It was. Like,
I think
100%.
In terms of I think we don't get enough of kind of like a how would I want to say this? Like a long-term
we don't,
Bat and Cat kind of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
We always get the one-off real quick. Oh, they have something, but they can't really live to it. And I think it helps that they kind of develop something. and that this is not the end of it. You know what I mean? That
Right.
you can tell how he looked at her, how he almost didn't want to let her leave his eyes when she's leaving a scene, that he didn't want to let her go. They're developing something good with them, and I think it also brought some like I think because him as Batman is such a serious thing, she brought this light into him being Batman as well.
That she did.
Yeah, so I think, and that's another
100%.
reason why he was like, okay, I see why we had this connection, but also I still have this thing to do over here, so I'm gonna keep doing me.
I think one of my favorite things about the relationship was she would call him Vengeance. Hey, Vengeance, and
Yeah.
okay, so Oz called him Vengeance, but when she called him Vengeance, it was different. It was more like, hey, Vengeance, like where Oz is like, vengeance in his face. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted.
No, you're fine. No, I was done. I mean, I real quick, Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman, how they wrote her, how she's serious at times but playful. Love it.
Honey, baby, all of that. Yes,
love it.
And
very
I think we've seen Catwoman with Batman, not just Catwoman. We've seen Catwoman with Batman. This would be the third, maybe the fourth, right? Because if you want to count the West.
Yeah.
If you want to count the West stuff, right?
Fourth.
But in the movie,
I mean, how many?
Right.
Multiple women who play Catwoman.
In the movies, this is the third iteration. We've seen her as I think what's the name that played her first time was really sexy with it, right?
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Michelle Pfeiffer was sexy. Anne Hathaway was more serious and brought a little bit of fight. But I think Zoe brings both sex appeal and I think this is fantastic. Moving on to the action and the fighting, I liked what they decided to do with Zoe Kravitz in terms of her fighting, or in terms of Catwoman's fighting, where she's more nimble and she kicks a lot, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Batman is a brawler and a boxer in this, more so than a martial artist.
Yeah,
I think
definitely not Ninja Batman.
Yeah, definitely not Ninja Batman. No.
Definitely not Ninja Batman in this movie.
Definitely not Ninja Batman, even though he does a ninja thing in this movie, and I think in the part where he did it, I was very impressed because up to that point we hadn't seen him. So talking about the action of this movie, the movie opens with a little bit of Batman action, and the next time we see action, he goes to go talk to the Penguin, and I love that scene because, as Parrish pointed out, this is year 2 Batman, who doesn't care. He doesn't care. He's like, I'm going to come through the front door, which is something we're not. If you've been watching Batman for as long as this is not the Batman you're used to.
It also felt very like comic Batman, because sometimes comic Batman needs to get information from some
doesn't
villain
care.
who's not the main villain. He just beats the crap out of them for a while, and then gets his information, then leaves. Right? It's like it felt like, in this issue of Batman, I need an action scene. So the writer's like, okay, he's going to go beat up the Penguin and get this basic piece of information he needs. Yeah, it felt very organic to the character in a way in which a lot
he knocked on the door. I was like, oh my gosh. He's definitely year 2 Batman.
Like, you know who I am? And I'm like, of course. Like,
of course.
And I think, you know what was also really funny? I know we like to say this movie was really serious, but what was really funny to me, I noticed it like on my second viewing, was the twins. Every time you saw them, they look worse. I don't care how much you pay me. Okay, I'm done. The security gig is not worth it anymore. Like,
oh my gosh!
But no, the Iceberg Lounge scene. The Iceberg Lounge scene, I think, is one of the more brilliant scenes, in terms of action, where he just walks in and he's fighting. What I also like is the lighting of that scene.
The lighting,
yes. Was it twice? We saw the Iceberg Lounge like 3 times, right?
But there's 2 big action
there's
sequences.
2.
Right? There's that one at the beginning and then the one at the end. And I think they really used the Iceberg Lounge really well.
Really well. Right.
Yeah, they did.
So yeah, like action. So the Iceberg Lounge scene, I think, was a really nice action scene. This is another scene that I thought was really funny. I think it's the police station scene.
Oh, right.
I think it was to me it was the more hilarious scene because outside of the punch, it's like you should have pulled your punch. I did.
I did, right?
That was a legitimately funny.
Yeah,
it was.
Did, yeah.
I think what was super funny to me is I don't know how you guys felt about this, but when he runs, it's like Gordon's like, go to the roof. And I think when he gets to the roof, he's legitimately scared.
Yeah, he's scared for a second.
He's
Yeah,
fucking scared.
Yeah, this is yeah.
And you saw the little. He was like, "Oh shit!" And he pulls. He's like, "You know what? Fuck it." And he pulls his thing up, right?
Suit, yeah.
And he jumps, and he does not stick the landing. I think I was the only one that bust out laughing.
No, you weren't the only one. The whole theater,
my theater laughed. We were dying because it's just like, yo,
what I couldn't tell was whether or not they were trying to be that was supposed to be funny. Like I couldn't tell.
I actually don't think it was.
I don't think it was either.
Because Reeves actually comes there. There's he did a breakdown of the scene, and in his breakdown he says, you know, this is supposed to be something fairly new to Batman, so he's not really. And I wanted to show him like not stick the landing. I would show him like, you know, get hurt. Again, I don't think it was intentionally meant to be funny.
Then he also just like walks away. Like this. It's just like
you can tell he's in pain. Yeah. Like he was just he was grunting and he was limping. Yeah. He was in so much pain. But it's lesson learned. I hope he definitely.
Well, it is a little lesson learned, right? Because like when he does the next time he does like a Batman style leaving thing when he goes down the construction site,
right?
Like he does it in a more traditional like Batman way, right?
Right.
Like, so it's a nice touch though that he gets to be better at being Batman as the movie goes along.
As the movie goes,
without the movie constantly calling attention to it in a way in which
like
Batman Begins does.
Yeah, right. You as the audience should be paying attention to notice that he's getting better.
Yeah.
Not that hey, look at over here, he just did this thing, and you know what I mean. It's done really well. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the best. I think that's also the bigger point of the movie. That it also makes that point at the end of the movie that he, you know, again we'll get there, but so that action scene, the jump. My favorite scene.
The jump was my favorite scene. Yeah.
It was like when he goes to the roof, and it's funny because I honestly think Gordon assumed that, you know, you're Batman. This is nothing to you. So go to the roof, and so that happens to, you know, to be what it was. The Batmobile scene.
Oh man,
it's super good.
The use of sound in that scene was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It sounded like a rocket going off.
It was amazing. Like it was it was I think to me it was probably the strongest action scene in the film, which is again a big chase from every previous Batman chase scene ever made, including Christopher Nolan, who did it 4 times.
And that Joker chase scene was really good. That Joker chase scene was really good in Dark Knight, so that's big competition.
Yeah. I have my complaints about that.
Your complaints about that.
but it's just so like anyway, all of Nolan's action sequences are just so like rehearsed. Like everything just feels like it's like a ballet, and it's not like in any way, it doesn't feel like frantic. And this felt frantic. Like, which is one of the things, and like it's like Penguin is really trying to get away from a crazy person who wants to like beat the shit out of him.
Yeah,
and it's and like that, and that's what I loved. Yeah, as the commenter says, like the vehicle sound is a beast, like the engine, and like Batman like constantly revving it up to let Gordon and Catwoman escape.
Yeah,
it's like a really good like touch. It's very Batman-y, and it's also like intimidating them, and like and it was just like really just like it felt like okay, this is what Batman would do in this situation. Felt very
right if there were people in trouble, because the rev does like give Catwoman, because
it saves her
around it saves her, and I think what also heightens that scene is Penguin, you know, he's constantly looking over. It's like, yo, what like, and then he decides to like cause the biggest accident in the world. And this is the argument, and I've seen this argument like, oh, should Batman have stopped and tried to like, yo, like. But again,
check on the people.
Yes, we are looking at.
Well, that's what the end of the movie is about.
Right.
Again, as he's getting better. This is a Batman who's very focused at this point, who's one-track mind, and I think the movie does well to show how one-track he is or one-note he is till we get to the end. And then the other, I think, again, the other action scene, the I almost called it Madison Square Garden, Gotham Square Garden.
Yeah,
I love it. But no, that I think that might be the best Batman drop in all of Batman drops.
It's up there, yeah.
It's definitely it's up there. It's
it's definitely like the moment where it's like, holy shit, this is like Batman. Like, it's easily, and it's my favorite use of the theme in the movie, where he just like bursts through, like kicks a bunch of henchmen's ass, and the theme is blaring, and you're like,
I think I skipped one. I did.
We skipped the second Iceberg.
The second Iceberg Lounge scene, where I think
it's more of a Catwoman scene to me.
Yeah,
like it felt like
I just talk about the hallway fight for a quick second. I know hallway fight scenes a dime a dozen. Daredevil has a couple of them.
Yeah,
mandated. It was mandated.
It was
right, and I think what's his name? Darth Vader has a hallway fight scene. I think at the end of
Rogue One.
Rogue One. Yeah. So hallway scenes are needed, right, in these kind of movies. But no, I think this hallway fight scene. I was also listening to Matt Reeves say the hallway fight scene was lit up with the muzzle flare from the movie. Like it was dark.
Yeah.
And anytime you see all those shots were just it took him about 3 weeks to film.
Wow.
And honestly, he said he would, and he said Rob was actually the person in that. And he would stay there till he got it right. And I think, this is one of the first times I'm like, you know what? I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess. But it was a good scene. It's just like...
It was a good scene. I think they're better, but I think it was a good scene. But for a hallway fight scene where we don't really see a lot of fight, I think it's not the best hallway fight scene.
No,
yeah.
I mean, no.
Daredevil
it's fine.
Daredevil still holds the best hallway fight scene.
Probably, some of the best stuff,
yeah.
But it fits the version of Batman, right? That they're doing.
Yes,
and also, it does a good job of like contrasting with like what's going on with Catwoman, and it like creates this tension, right? Like this is Batman's this like unstoppable force, but they slow him down, right? Like, is he going to make it in time to save Catwoman? Is she going to save herself? Like, it creates this like tension. Tension, I thought was really good, and it's a cool filmmaking trick that they lit it with the.
And I think, as you said, it is a Catwoman scene. What I think it's important to note that it is a Catwoman scene, but another to note is he was going to save her, and Gordon was like, "I should come with him." He's like, "No, I'll do it I'll do it my way." And the way he decided to do it, I thought was very, like we got a little bit of ninja, not all the way, but a little bit of ninja. And how I figured out he was a boxer was the combo he hit the security guard with.
Yeah.
The nice 2-piece uppercut combo, and he dropped him, and he went on to do what he did. The drop scene, I think, the best. You said the car chase was your best action scene. I think the drop scene and that fight on the catwalk is my favorite action scene. It comes at the end of the movie, so it's interesting, and honestly,
nice build up.
It makes me look at it. It makes me look at the warehouse scene, which a lot of people are holding as the Batman scene, and say no.
Are we talking about the one in Batman vs Superman?
Yes.
I mean, it's definitely the most Batman-y Batman scene in that movie, except of course he kills all those people.
Right.
To him just murdering
there is a contrast, and again, these are still people. They're not.
Yeah. Right.
They're still people. Yes, they're doing what they're doing because they're disenfranchised, they're poor, and they've had to live in a city where these people have bad.
But are they disenfranchised and poor? Like that's kind of
they bought those guns.
Like
Batfleck was really he was angry.
Like
that's an angry Batman.
It's incel Riddler, right? Like, and that's one of the twists here, right? Like,
right.
And one of the things that one of the things that I really love about this movie, as I was talking about with my wife, is like. This movie was in some ways like a lot of internet discussion, but it was like, this is incel Batman, right?
100%.
But it's not incel Batman, right? Like he makes the choice throughout the movie to not be that person.
Yeah.
Right? And then there's at the end when the guy says, I am vengeance, and like, and he's like, I don't like Batman makes a conscious choice to not be that, to not be like the right wing version of Batman.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, holy shit. It's like, that's one of the things I loved about this movie was that it embraces a vision of Batman that is beyond just Batman beats the shit out of people and criminals, right? That Batman is a symbol that is beyond that, which is something that Nolan movies played with but was much more like interested in a different way than this movie was.
He's bigger than the cow.
Yeah, and the fact that and it's one of the things that's also super great is it's set up at the beginning of the movie when he sees the mayor's son, right?
Mhm.
And
Yes.
there's two sides of Batman's trauma, right? There's the like scared, angry boy, right?
Mhm.
Who is lashing out, I'm vengeance, boom, 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 beat up people.
Right.
But then there's the other thing of this like boy who never wants this to happen to other children. That
Mhm.
needs to be this like inspirational
that is the
Batman
most
that's
important.
like
I think
saving people, right?
Yeah.
And he saves people in that.
And that is the most important I think story thread is again the boy, right? When when everything is done with that big fight scene and he comes down, everyone's kind of sees him sacrifice himself for Gotham or the Gothamites down
Yeah.
in the water. And he goes to let everybody out. He sets the flare up and trying to let everybody out, and everyone is hesitant except Mitchell's son.
Yep.
And I think that was a very interesting story thread because that's the first person who like, okay, I saw you at my, you kind of solved my dad's murder. I'm not scared of you. Everyone's scared of you, but I'm not scared of you, type of thing. And I love that. Before we move any further, can we talk about the Riddler and his not the plan necessarily, but that face off? I think okay, again, this was funny to me, and I don't know how you guys felt about it. Batman dooming or just getting super scared because like he thinks the Riddler knows who he is.
Might know.
Yeah. It's so well done.
And telling Gordon, yo, it's been great working with you. Like,
He's like, well, this one's done. We're wrapping this up.
Right.
Yeah,
this is
scared.
over.
Yeah.
And then he goes to see the Riddler, and the Riddler is like Bruce Wayne. And you look again. This is where we should stop talking about the white lenses because you need to see the eyes. Yeah, you can act with you like the close up on the eyes, and I 100% felt like I saw tears. He was about to cry.
Yeah.
He was like, well, the thing that's really nice where it looks at the security camera. It's like, is it like this is being recorded, right? Like, and it's really well, and like Batman, like slowly, like you can feel Pattinson having a panic attack,
like that.
Like
his throat is like that lump in his throat is like Bruce Wayne. He's like, what? And then the Riddler goes off in a tangent. Oh, wait a minute.
He's just obsessed with Bruce Wayne, right?
Yeah,
and it's just like
all it is.
And you're just like, it's easily one of the most like well acted scenes in the whole film,
right?
Yeah, like Paul Dano,
Dano,
yeah, something like that.
And then
amazing
Pattinson are really excellent at it. Like, it's just
as the commenter said, the first time I feel like I've ever seen film. I've never seen a Batman ever scared for anything. This is the first time I saw Batman kind of scared. Like, oh crap, I'm about to be outed. And I think that scene again, well shot, and then the almost Joker interrogation. Like, what did you do? Like, it's not the joke. It's not the Joker.
Oh no, I was like talking about the last scene with the Joker, which we can talk about.
No, not that one. The almost Joker interrogation is like, what did you do? What have you done? This is the thing I like about Detective Batman. Anytime you see Detective Batman, he does solve the case to a degree, but at the very end, the villain always has like a backup or step plan.
Yeah,
something I still get to win out of this, and I love seeing that. Even though they got the Riddler and everything worked out, or not because people still died.
Lots of people died. Yeah.
Right. He wasn't smart enough to find someone said something, right? Bruce Wayne is so rich that he didn't know that was a carpet puller. Yeah. I'm not rich, and I don't know what a carpet puller feels like. I mean,
but it was a nice touch, right?
It was.
It felt very like, as much as you can complain about this being Zodiac, like incel Riddler, like it still felt very true to the fundamental of the character, right? Where there's just like riddles within riddles within riddles, and that like even a small thing like the murder weapon was itself its own like clue. And it felt very like what the best versions of the Riddler are.
Yeah.
Right. And I think the better part of it was another part of the clues, or Batman not understanding the clues, was the URL Rada Alada.
Yeah. Right.
It's again, Colin Farrell killed it.
Yeah.
He's like, use guys.
You don't know your Spanish?
You don't know your Spanish? Again, it's like you said, riddles on riddles on riddles. And it's a contrast thing, right? The first time you see Batman, and I forget the officer's name, and that officer, right? It's like, what are you doing here? Where he stops him, puts his hand on his chest, and I think, and even when he did put his chest, right, he kind of felt intimidated, like, crap, should I really be doing this?
Should I be doing this?
Yeah, versus the last time you see them together, and he's like, crap. Oh, you've never seen that before? It's a tool. My dad does this, and it's kind of like, okay, maybe you're not the worst person in the world, even though you dress like a bat, right?
You see, like I mean, and they really show that, like with your side characters, that okay, they're slowly warming up to him, like, you know what I mean? And I think that's what that ending scene was about. Like when we're going back to Mitchell's son, is everybody was hesitant, and Mitchell's like, yo, listen, he helped with my dad. I'm gonna jump in this man's arms. I'm not staying in this water. And everybody was like, all right, well, let's all go. You know what I mean? It was very much the city warming up to Batman. Definitely.
And I think another thing I did love, right, before we finish this, is how we almost catch the Riddler at the funeral scene.
Yeah. Yep.
And Bruce was right. But he didn't go as Bruce Wayne. He went as Batman.
Mm-hmm.
But Bruce, because Batman can't be out during the day, so he went as Batman and
in his
Bruce Wayne costume.
Yeah.
Right. And the entire time
he still saved Mitchell's son in that scene too.
Yeah. And the entire time he's still one track, and then he spots the boots. He walks up to Falcone, and the entire time he's just like trying to blend into the shadows, and the mayor calls him out. It's like, Bruce, what are you doing? Like, you could be doing help. To Roy's point earlier, how Bruce Wayne isn't like how the argument is Bruce Wayne could donate so much money. The mayor is us. It's like, oh, the mayor is like, you could be doing so much. Like, you're not doing enough to help the city. So come on, like, help us out. And I'll talk to you later. And we missed them talking to each other again. It's kind of funny they met later, but she probably doesn't remember. Or she doesn't know that she's actually standing in front of
right. That he is doing more. She just doesn't know the kind of more he's doing. Yeah.
Coming, and then full circle coming to the end of the movie where he's like, I think he realized that he inspired the wrong kind of people.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that vengeance scene. Can we talk about that vial real quick? Because a lot of the internet is buzzing.
Yeah.
To me, I saw it both times. I'm like, this is adrenaline, and
I supposed to be.
And everyone is like, it's green, it's glowing. I'm like, okay, it could be in a green bottle.
I mean, I think it's one of those things they could leave it open. I don't think that they're gonna do like Venom, like
yeah.
I think during the opioid crisis, during the opioid crisis, that is something you probably don't want to touch, because there is a version of Batman that's addicted to venom, right? And the other argument is he patrols the night for 2 years straight. He could really be dosing, but again,
I mean, he's on uppers. I mean, isn't that like a classic thing that people say about Batman, right? That he's on uppers.
Yeah,
he's on caffeine pills at the very least.
Right, but I think it's in when he injects himself with adrenaline, because again, people want to say he is, he was very aggressive. If you shoot, anyone who has ever had adrenaline would tell you it's a rush. It's an intense rush, and it just makes you alive. And so, yes, he broke that guy's face. And I think this is important to know. This movie did all the action and all the beating and everything it did with a PG-13 rating.
Mm-hmm.
Which is crazy.
And with a serial killer version of the Riddler as well.
Like, exactly.
Yeah.
Like
with a PG-13 rating.
Yeah, I mean that's
so you can. Yeah, I know what that comment is going. You can do something this serious, and you don't have to curse or blood and all of that. But yeah, so at the end of the movie, he realizes he did inspire the wrong people. He he wants to change, or he has to change. And I think the better part of the movie, or one of my another scene that I think that I liked, was when he carried the girl and he places her on the gurney, and he's turning around to let go, and she's like,
she
no.
grabs him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think also it highlights if I'm not mistaken, it's the first time we see Batman during the daytime.
It is.
It is.
And
yes,
it recontextualizes a scene from the trailer, because that scene's in the trailer, right?
Yeah,
it's like covered in dirt, and you like the impression the trailer gives you is that like Batman was like fighting or doing something. Instead, he was been like rescuing people.
He's been rescuing people. Yeah.
And it's just like it's a really good reversal of like again usually how Batman operates.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and recontextualize it just shows you how good the trailer was, because like also him with the like leading like where he's in the like water is in the trailer, right? But it makes it more look like he's investigating something.
He's investigating, yeah.
Instead of like he's like saving people, right? Like, which is there was a conversation.
The trailer was cut really well.
Yeah, about like superheroes saving people. That was like big when Man of Steel came out, right? And like in many ways, like Age of Ultron has a bunch of like the Avengers saving people stuff, and that conversation like fell off. And I think that this movie brings it back, right? Because that is one of the elements of superhero movies. That's been lost, like definitely lost in the Snyder films.
Yeah.
But like even Marvel has also lost that, because it's been more about like the set piece action. Like that's what Marvel movies are centered around these days.
Yeah, I mean, also as Marvel movies have tried to do what they do outside of populated areas, so it kind of gives them the ability to go in as hard as they want to. I think that works. Again, if you watch BVS after Man of Steel, they even mention it, that like I think it was Anderson Cooper is like,
it's an abandoned island.
Yeah, right. They make like, okay, we're not doing this anymore,
because people really did come for Superman blowing up the whole city. Literally, Batman comes for him. In that
And so I can appreciate again those two scenes, as you said, the water scene where it's him saving people, and not just that he's saving people, he's saving people as Batman. It's like, okay, he goes to grab Mitchell's son, and he goes to grab the people, and Mitchell's son is the one that says, hey, go ahead, like I trust you enough to go with you. And then everyone now decides to follow, and you see that flare scene again. Matt Reeves said was lit by the flare. Yeah, they had a little bit of light in it, but that was lit by the flare. I thought that was a really gorgeous shot and really interesting take. And then the helicopter scene was pretty interesting. We are at the end of the movie, and I think it's only fair that we talk about the scene that is kind of a what's the word I'm looking for? It's kind of a end credit, mid credit scene, but it's not. It's because it's cut into the movie. I hope to God, right now, the way this movie is, the way this world is, I hope we don't get that character. I really hope that's where it starts and ends.
It's not going to, though.
And if we do get the character, I would want it to be later on, like maybe a third. I just feel like there's so many more. Again, Reeves has
so much more they could have done. It was you know what? It felt so out of place and forced. This is the only thing in the whole movie that felt out of place and forced. Actually,
100% agree, Paris. Like it was easily the only scene in the whole film that I didn't like.
Yeah,
like there's some that I feel that didn't land perfectly or were too long or like. But this is the movie where I'm just like, no,
yeah,
it's like you were just like you were doing it. You were doing so well. It's like in many ways I'm a teacher. It's in many ways you're like reading a student essay and you're like, this is great, awesome. You're learning great, and then they get to the end and you're just like, no, you missed the whole point.
Right?
It's like no,
no. To double back on what the commenter said. So Reese has said he wants to do Playboy, right? Oh no, not Playboy. Sorry, Mr. Freeze. I am hoping, right, if we do get a sequel, that because he has made sure he's putting that out there. I would like to do Mr. Freeze. I would hope that it comes from this. It comes from this the flood. Like someone also said, I don't want to see like a big time jump. I want to see like a Gotham healing from the flood. And maybe Nora Freeze was probably stuck and Victor's trying to save her, and then that's how he goes. I would love to see consequences from this. So jumping into like that character will absolutely blow my mind. Like would kill me.
I don't want that. That the sequel won't directly feature the Joker. I would guess it's going to be the third one. Like I think it's going to be like the Sinister Six versus Batman would be the last one. Like where Joker plus Riddler plus whoever the villains of the second one are all come like Nightfall, right? Like
So
it would
so
be
so
something
you're
like
not
that.
going
would
to
be-
give me Court of Owls, is what you're saying. So you're pretty much saying we might not get Court of Owls because and then the commenter ends the comment with saying I hope we don't see him as a playboy. It
won't.
would be fine if we see him just being a philanthropist, like helping the city heal and all of that good
Yeah.
stuff. And
Yeah.
if you want to see more Bruce Wayne, that's what you know. And then Hush, there was also a line where Hush was kind of teased in the film. It's like
Tommy
Hush
Elliott's
money.
dad is the reporter, so
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so
Yep.
like there's so much you can do without doing that particular character, and I really hope, as
It's
you said,
Schrodinger's Joker, man. Like as soon as you put the Joker in there, like you know at some point he's gonna crack.
yeah, but
Like,
I
yeah.
hope if we do get that, I hope, like you said, it's like a Nightfall where it's like the Sinister Six, you know, like No Way Home, you know, every villain versus
Yeah.
the Batman, not an extended. Maybe if the Joker is like the final boss, I can't believe I just said that, but the Joker's the final boss.
but I could definitely see that happening.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, the final
Where-
boss battle where he takes down everyone, and then you know Catwoman comes in. We get maybe Dick Grayson at a certain age, Nightwing age esque. You know, like they did mention Bloodhaven. So
Oh, yeah.
listen,
They did.
listen.
I wouldn't even mind like maybe if they develop, because you know if they're gonna do a Penguin show, I'm assuming they're gonna start developing crime families and crime bosses. If they change some of these characters into a more mob feel where they're like that, they're crime bosses. It would be interesting if they were to go to war by the third film, and now Batman has to stop this war by going against all these villains. That would be a nice little touch in terms of, you know, because recently they've done like Riddler versus Joker in the comic books.
The War of
and their
Joseph Riddles,
war.
I love it. Yeah,
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
so it's definitely a concept
that
they
was
can mess
heavy.
around
That
with.
was heavy bat and cat, by the way. I loved it.
I mean, look, I'm a huge Bat and Cat person. Like,
Listen,
like
100%.
I loved this stuff. It was specifically like that specific felt, and the way it ended, I felt was like very organic to that.
Yeah.
It wasn't forced.
She's the one character that I like. I want all three movies, Selena, to be in them.
Yeah,
Like I don't think, like I would be very frustrated if they, you know, because they've said they want to do 3, and this one made enough money that they're going to do a second one, and if they do a second one, they'll do a third, right? So we are going to get 3 movies with Pattinson, right, as Batman.
Right.
So if
But
the
it's
next
gonna
one
be-
they like Catwoman's not in it, and you know she shows up at the very end, and they tease or whatever, and she's not in the third one, I'll be annoyed because I want this relationship to keep building because I think they
keep
ended on a really good note, and they also set Catwoman up in a way that like
she can have her own thing.
she can have her own thing, and
Yeah.
she's an anti-hero right at the end of this movie.
Right,
Where
right.
she's not a villain. She's, you know what I mean, but she's like said, I'm gonna like go for the rich. I'm gonna steal from like wealthy people. I
Yes,
want to go.
they
for
set her up
CEO
as a Robin Hood kind of
kind of
Yeah,
thing,
they
which
did.
is like very
Um,
much where Catwoman is right now in the comics as well.
It
And
is.
it like,
right.
and it's not like going to be the stupid thing where like she's stealing from Marconi or whatever. Batman has to chase her or whatever. It's like they can be both oriented in a way that
Right.
they have different ideas, and it could be like, you know, like one of the things they're playing with this is like, should Batman go for the power structure, like on a more revolutionary level, right? Like, because Batman is very much about corruption, right? He's like, why do you work with me, Gordon? He's like, well, Gordon's not corrupt, but that cop is corrupt, so I'll throw him off a
Right.
right, like and torture him. So that's one of the things I really thought was interesting. It sets up a good dynamic between Bruce and Selena. That's not just like someone for him to catch, you know,
Right.
which is the stuff that's just
Right.
like, which is kind of where they went.
because that's what they did with Batman. Yeah, Batman Forever. No, Batman Returns.
Batman Returns. Yeah.
And they also did that a little bit with Selena in the Nolan
in
film.
TDKR. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did a Batman by the Numbers show where I talked about how much the movie made so far, and I think last weekend it opened very, very well. Blew, you know, again, it's the second biggest pandemic opening that's not Spider-Man or Marvel. So far, we just got updated by the commenter. It's
I saw, yeah.
Yeah,
400
and
million.
it's still not in China. So Japan loves it, and obviously it's gonna miss Russia. And I think because of what's going on in Europe or that Eastern Europe, it might not make turn. But I think they have a number, and you know, I think they have a number. And if it gets to that number, I think we're definitely gonna, again, because the Riddler has also, I'm sorry, not the Riddler, Penguin has been greenlit. The show's been greenlit.
Yeah, there's no way they're not going to make a sequel. Like,
Right.
At the very least, like I mean, they almost certainly at this point, like locked Pattinson into a 3-movie deal.
In 3-movie deal.
And Matt Reeves too. But the question is like,
Right.
how soon is that movie going to come out?
Right.
Like, Matt Reeves
Right.
himself has said that he wants a break, and he's going to be the executive producer of this Penguin show.
On the Penguin show.
Pattinson,
And also the
Okay.
Gotham City show. So there were 2 shows supposed to come out from this. The Gotham PD show has pivoted into an Arkham series, which
that could be where we get the Joker.
I think it's interesting though, because Joker, keep him there. But I think it's very interesting because again, we get to see the Arkham origin in here, where not Selena, not Nora, Batman's Bruce's mom.
Martha. Why did you say that name?
Why did I forget that name? Oh my god. Oh yeah, I should get kicked off for that. But no, honestly, I think the movie, the universe that could come from this is has a lot of potential. And I think the only thing that could maybe stop the progress of this is the merger. But again, these guys love money. If this movie makes enough money, if this movie makes enough money,
I really think that this movie is pretty. This series is pretty safe, right? Because it's also self-contained.
Yeah,
right. Like and if HBO Max is doing these series, like I think the big stickler is like, how is this going to fit into Reeves and Pattinson's schedule? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like Pattinson, I think, is very acutely aware of like burnout. Like I don't think he wants to do the Twilight thing where he spends a whole decade of his life nonstop being Batman.
Right.
But I could see this being closer to the Nolan situation where you get a Batman movie like every 3 to 4 years, because versus like the Spider-Man situation, right, where Holland made a Spider-Man movie every 2 years. Plus the Avengers movies mixed in. Like I don't think we'll get that like insane schedule that that has been very much more common.
Real quick, while we're on Pattinson, can we say that he silenced all the haters? Twilight Pattinson. It was like, that was a decade ago. Like, this is a whole different actor than you've seen. Like,
but also the thing that's true, if you watch those movies, he's actually good in those movies in the context of those movies.
For the context of the movie, right?
Like and also if you watch his indie films or like him on Saturday Night Live and these amazing troll interviews he gives, where he's just like saying absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Like he described like how he got in Batman's mind was playing Sonic the Hedgehog or Shadow the Hedgehog 2. And it's just like, and then like he's talking about Final Fantasy VII and Aerith and Tifa being the origin of like men's heterosexuality. It's just like Pattinson is an unbelievably talented actor.
Yeah, I couldn't stand people. I'm like, you're talking about something that happened a decade ago, and that's probably the only Pattinson movie you saw, and then you didn't see anything else in his catalog, and you're saying he can't be a Batman. It's like, how do you even know? Like, so I'm so glad that he killed it, man.
I'm easily the best.
I'm happy that he did.
All right, so I think this is the we're done with Batman. So let me just really shoot a question to you guys real quick. So while we're here, DC has shifted their slate again for the year, which the reason that they shifted their slate, because I did a show with Kyle about that. The reason they shifted their slate is because COVID has backed up a lot of these companies, and the VFX companies that they use are really backed up. Aquaman also just got done shooting in January, so I'm like, that movie's supposed to come out in December.
Yeah,
it's supposedly VFX heavy. The Flash is also VFX heavy,
right? And
I also think COVID is another reason why the Batman took so long to come out, right?
Yeah, they delayed it twice, right?
Twice, yeah, and then it was supposed to come out last year, but I guess the thing with Warner Brothers was like, we're not doing this on HBO Max.
Yeah, they didn't want this. They specifically delayed it, not because the movie wasn't done, but because they didn't want to do the HBO Max.
We're not doing this on HBO Max, yeah.
Right.
So they pushed it again. But I think
45 days though.
Yeah, I think Warner Brothers, so it doesn't have a long time for its theatrical run. I think Warner Brothers saw that and said, hey, because this movie was, again, I think the first time COVID happened was Pattinson with COVID, and I think also certain things, I think, the post-production and COVID. And I think because it had this extended time, it really fixed itself up. Do you think Warner Brothers said, okay, The Rock, your movie's ready to go, so let's push you, let's and then Shazam is probably the closest thing to almost being done versus, say, an Aquaman or a Flash movie. Let's bring you into this year and let's push the Flash. So how do you feel? Again, because the Flash has a lot more stake in terms of the actual grand DCEU, right?
It's the movie, right? Like
it is the movie.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that push, first of all, out of 2022? Because when I first saw the Batman, there were no trailers, and then when I saw this the second time, they played that DC Heroes
They
trailer.
did. I saw. Yeah, they did. I saw it the second time. I was like, wait a minute, this trailer wasn't here the last time I watched this movie.
The year of 2022.
Yeah.
Right, and all four,
laugh them.
right. So how do you guys know? But I mean, Black Adam is still in 2020, right? In 2022, and I think now Shazam comes into 2022. How do you guys feel? But the most important thing to remember is Black Adam is in October. Shazam is in December.
I thought it was the other way around. I thought it was Shazam first, then Black Adam.
No. It's Black Adam because again, it's probably the one that's actually done, right? Because it was supposed to be in December last year, but again, not HBO Max, so it moved into July of this year. But they pushed it back to October 21st. It's gonna run it through Halloween, all the way through almost Thanksgiving.
It'll be competing with what's the Marvel movie? Is that
Black
Panther?
No,
I don't. No, there's no Black Panther movie anymore.
Yeah, that's also
the Wakanda one, right?
No, that's that. I think they're moving. They're talking about moving that out of 2022.
They're talking about it, but it's November 11th currently still.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to run up against Black Panther,
right?
Or Wakanda.
I honestly think Warner Brothers can sacrifice that movie. That's how I feel about it. I've never felt super strong about Black Adam and The Rock as Black Adam. So
I think I was just talking to somebody about this, and I think I like Black Adam as a character, but The Rock, just him being who he is, he alters the character immediately. You know what I mean? Yes. How they have to write him, how they have to present him, because The Rock is, because The Rock is your standard packaged hero. You're never gonna go too crazy.
But they are bringing out JSA.
I know, man.
They need someone to lose fights.
That's what I'm excited about. Is JSA. I'm like, yo, JSA.
How does Dr. Fate lose? You know what? Whatever. I'm not.
The Rock contractually cannot lose fights in movies that he's in.
No,
watch the Jumanji movies. He never loses a fight. Sometimes he gets knocked away, but he never loses a fight. All right. So Adam Smasher is gonna just get his ass kicked the whole movie,
the whole way through,
so that The Rock can, I don't know, not get his ass. It makes you look like a wimp if you lose a fight in the middle of your own movie that you're the main character of, and you're a super cool superhero. As a
comic book head, I'm excited about the movie regardless. I want to see, I want to see this. You know what I mean? I just want to see the fight scenes.
My barrier is, will it get me to go to the movies in COVID? Spider-Man would have, but that was literally in the middle of the surge.
The holiday surge, right?
The holiday surge. But Batman got me to go. Doctor Strange is going to get me to go. Right? I don't think any of the DC movies besides The Flash will get me to go. Because The Flash is like Schrodinger's box of superhero movies. What are they going to do with the Snyder/DC extended universe?
They're hitting the reset button.
They are, but what does that mean?
But how are they going to do it?
Yeah,
and that's why I was excited for The Flash.
Me too. That's literally
has so much.
Just show me the ending of that movie. I don't even care about the rest of the movie. I just want to know, how are you going to try to fix this mess? And I mean, I think the big question for me for the merger is I think the DC EU is under the most concern. I think these Pattinson Batman movies, which are getting amazing press, making a lot of money, they have none of this.
Joker. It's funny though. The Joker is safe. If Todd Phillips comes back to do something else, that universe is safe, and I hate it
too. But I just hate to think about that movie, because it doesn't exist. I've never seen the Joker. I never will see the Joker. I'll never see the Joker 2 or Joker 3 or Joker 7.
You didn't help it get $1 billion.
No, I did not help it get $1 billion. I would, but I think that the DC EU could implode in the merger. It could become basically an HBO Max content farm.
Yeah.
Because
but that wouldn't be bad though.
I also don't bad, but if you,
because movies, I'm in HBO Max, so I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I like HBO Max. HBO Max is pure value. You should subscribe to HBO Max.
Absolutely.
It actually has shit on it, unlike Netflix these days.
Right. I find myself struggling with Netflix, and that's kind of weird.
Yeah, I used to.
I'm not. Yeah, I debate with myself every month. So I want to cancel that thing.
I mean,
I'm
once
scrolling through Netflix and I'm like, I can't find anything to watch, and then I turn on HBO Max. I'm like, you know what? I could watch this.
there's always
Or I could
movies.
watch an old season of something that I don't remember, and I'm currently watching Deadwood. That's insane to me.
Yeah, I mean, they have all the HBO content, plus they have all of Warner Brothers movies. Like it's like, and I always get shocked. Like, oh yeah, this movie is on here. Like,
you know what's funny? A
all
lot of
Lethal Weapon
20th century movies go to HBO Max.
Yeah,
The Kingsman, the Ryan Reynolds video game movies on HBO Max. Then
no,
Shazam-
I thought that what's it called is
no.
it's on both.
Free Guy is also on HBO. Is also on
Free
Disney
Guy
Plus.
is on HBO.
Disney.
No,
It's also on Disney Plus.
It is on HBO Max.
It's
The
on
first
on
one
both.
is- It's on
Yeah.
both. The Kingsman is a 20th century movie. It's on HBO. It's on HBO Max. And then you have Shazam going up against Avatar.
Avatar.
Are we excited about Avatar? Because it's like,
I mean, I feel like I've said this on this show many times. Like, I
Yes.
truly do not understand people like apparently there are people who love Avatar. Like they exist in the universe,
No.
but I've never encountered them once in my life.
the movie
Like-
was great. It's just like this. How many years ago was that? Like, I don't care about
13
Avatar
now?
anymore. Like,
11,
I think it was
12, 13,
2013.
13. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
lot of years.
that's a lot of time.
So the question, I think that's why they moved Aquaman out of December.
2009, by the way.
Yeah.
2009. Barack Obama had just been inaugurated president of the United States when that movie came out. Wow. Almost 20 years, like closer to 20 years ago. Holy shit.
But that's why Aquaman moved out of December, because they're both going to be underwater movies, right?
Mhm.
One of them is practically maybe going to be finished, and James Cameron VFX, oh my god, is going to revolutionize movies again.
Yeah, it's gonna blow everybody away. So
Right. And so Warner Bros. Is like, nah, we gotta move. We will sacrifice your movie, Shazam. And if you're funny enough, Shazam is the movie I'm actually kind of excited for. I
Me
really enjoyed the first
too.
one.
I still haven't seen Shazam. I really should. It's
The
on
first
HBO
one is
Max,
really
so
good.
just watch it.
Yeah,
it
I
caters
really
a little bit. It caters to everybody. I love the first one. The first one is really good.
Yeah, so I enjoyed the first one, and I'm like, you know what? I would definitely see the second one. So 3 DC movies coming up. 3 DC movies this year. The Batman has come out. It's done really great. Black Adam is later, and Shazam is at the end of the year. I would ask for your excitement level for the DC movie universe, not the DC EU, but just the DC in general. But no, I think this year is going to be great because, again, this month alone, we have the Batman. We're getting Halo. We are getting Moon Knight next week, I believe.
2 weeks. The third.
In 2 weeks, yeah.
Next week we get No Way Home. It comes out. They moved it up.
Yeah, it comes. Yeah.
It's
They
on
moved it up
digital.
because Russia and
Russia
listen,
leaked it.
Yeah, it's sort of like, nope, we have to make all that money real quick. Let's move
Hey,
on.
look, I made it happy. It made me happy because like I've been waiting
Yeah,
for that to
'cause
come out on digital.
right.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I want to watch it, but
I'm definitely, and the Batman, I think Steelbook comes out in June, which is really soon. Just crazy. I think again, it's probably the HBO Max thing. They're gonna try to bring
45
that out.
days I think is HBO's
Yeah.
like is Warner Brothers thing. So
I think Warner Brothers kind of fakes on that. If you ask me, I feel like it'll get lost in the scheme of things. But no, thank you guys so much for taking the time to come discuss the Batman. Paris, this is the first time we got you here. I'm glad I was able to get finally. Right. We should probably do this again for Multiverse of Madness.
Yes.
Oh, that's right, Morbius.
Right, that movie.
Morbius.
Right?
Yeah, that
And
does not pass the
April.
COVID test for
You know the joke. The joke about Morbius is it's coming out April 1st. Could that be a joke?
Does anyone care?
I'm not
so
hype
much for
about it,
coming.
man.
Morbius.
I am not hype about it. They
Like,
can.
Does like Jared Leto? Like, come on.
I think it's gonna
again. He's maybe the worst Joker, and I think he should have stayed away from IP like big IPs. I think he should have stayed away from IPs. Yeah, he should have been like, you know what? After that Joker, I should probably not do this anymore. I should relax.
But Sony really wants to cash on as many characters as they can. So
We also are getting like Across the Spider-Verse this year too, right?
Across the this year is great. Again, like I said, Multiverse of Madness, Black Panther, and what else is supposed to come out from Marvel?
Thor.
Which again is currently
It's
under
got zero promotion though. which is
because they're doing reshoots right now. They just ordered some reshoots, and it's weird. But again, this is normal. It should not be anything.
Oh no, I mean, I think
we're getting the God Butcher, so this should be good.
I think
his Joker was written poorly.
Yeah, that's an understatement comment.
Yeah.
Understatement of the year. I think. I mean, the question is I think the Batman is going to carry DC this year. I think
for this year,
within fan enthusiasm. I mean, the question is can Marvel match it, right? I think the question is will Strange? I mean this quite seriously though. Strange, I have a feeling I'm unbelievable. I'm a Marvel, particularly the MCU. I'm a much bigger fan of all the MCU movies than almost anything DC's done, besides the Nolan Batman movies and this one. But the question is though, the MCU is people are starting to sour on it a little bit. And
they are.
I think whether or not, if Doctor Strange sticks the landing, I think it could just really be the year of Disney. And I think if it ends up being a divisive film, I'm not sure, because I think not releasing literally anything in 2020 was really bad for the MCU.
It was. Oh my God, it was. I don't know why they did that.
I think even though Wonder Woman was what it was, because it came in that period, Christmas leading into the New Year. Because did DC release anything in 2020? No, they didn't, right?
Did something?
No.
Did they not? I'm trying to think. Well, did they have anything planned?
No, it was
that was supposed to come out. It was Wonder Woman in the summer, and then maybe Batman was also supposed to come out in 2020, but they delayed it really early.
Yeah. No, Batman started shooting in 2020 because that's when COVID.
Maybe what else was? Suicide Squad. Maybe was
Suicide Squad was supposed to come out in 2020, but
they pushed.
But because Wonder Woman was, the thing, it was the only thing you talked about for half of 2020 because it came out right before Christmas and all of that. Wait, did Wonder Woman come out 2020? It did come out 2020 Christmas, right?
It did, yeah.
It was the only superhero movie that came out.
And then
MCU had Black Widow. They just held it.
They had Black Widow.
They had Black Widow and kept pushing it. Maybe next month and then the next month because no one was sure. We were all getting those 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks. I remember quite well. Yeah, it was Black Widow got pushed from May to July to August to.
And then finally we were like, we're not doing this. And then Wonder Woman was like, you know what, HBO Max. And I think then the next thing was the Snyder cut on HBO Max and. But no, again, thank you. Was that for the Snyder cut?
I'm glad that era of my life is over having to talk about that.
Oh man, it's I think once the Flash happens, it'll turn that off immediately.
Or we'll just turn it all the way on.
Because Affleck has said repeatedly, this is the last time you will see me on the cowl as Batman. And I love that he came on and he said that.
Well, it was the worst time in his life. I totally get it.
It really was. I really felt because he was drinking.
He was gambling. He was cheating on his wife. He was cheating on his girlfriends. He was it was just he was getting shit on by fans.
Right. He was.
Maybe he was studying for the character Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, he was.
And then it's funny because right after BVS, he came out with another movie that he wrote and directed, and that failed.
Yeah.
And he was like, you know what? This is not for me because and it's funny because he was on a high before Batman. He was.
Yeah.
And which is why I thought he was going to be okay, I have so much faith in him because he's coming from The Town, Argo, Ben Affleck. He's like.
But he was legitimately a comic book fan, in real life.
Yeah, and he, being Batman was probably big for him, and
he probably wanted to bury the whole Daredevil shadow he had casted on him.
And then Zack Snyder exploded a bomb on his career.
And I think that's why he's like, I'm never doing another one of these ever again. I feel so bad for him. It's so funny. It's so funny. Every time he's done a superhero IP, right? The next person to take up that character is knocked it out the park.
Kills it.
And actually seems to enjoy being the character. Love being Matt Murdock. He's like, this is my thing.
To do it again.
He's like, this is my thing. I'm not gonna be one of those actors who just uses it and goes. He's like, my career hasn't gone anywhere. I'm just gonna take this Disney money. I'll be Daredevil until I'm too old
So too old to be Daredevil.
He said he wants
yeah.
to fight anybody who wants to roll physically. I'm like, okay.
All right, Charlie. Like,
Right.
you're a great Daredevil. I'm excited for apparently like a little bit more lighter Daredevil. That's what the rumor is. So
yeah. But again, if you look at the Batman, which is why I made the comment, you can do these serious characters or these serious things. You don't necessarily have to change a lot for Daredevil. Just tone down certain things, the blood, the cursing, all of that, the nudity. Tone all of that down.
There was nudity in this film.
Yeah.
I was
more so in Luke Cage.
Cut some of these scenes once they put them on Disney Plus because there's definitely
it was more so in Luke Cage than
Luke Cage was
sexier.
But the third season of Daredevil is like real violent.
Yes, which
like
you have to.
And Punisher, like
I think Punisher is the one you don't do anything with.
Well, I mean,
like I agree with you, but it's like the platform. I don't know if they.
But think about it. This would be the third time they've tried with that character. Netflix gave him 2 seasons, which again,
I mean, he was successful on Netflix, right? Like, I mean, inarguably, it was always. Well, I mean, they got good ratings by Netflix standards, right? As far as I understand.
Well, yeah.
Like I know Daredevil and Punisher and beginning of Jessica Jones and first Luke Cage season all got like good ratings as far as Netflix ever says anything about its ratings, right?
Right.
Even the first season of Iron Fist did well for them. But
it did because there was a lot of hate watch.
Hate watch. And a lot of like enthusiasm, right? And then it was terrible, and that kind of like torpedoed Defenders.
And I think, it kind of made the Defenders suck. But no, again, thank you guys so much for doing this. I can't wait to do Multiverse of Madness. Yes. I'm excited about that.
Please include me in that. I would love to talk.
Oh yeah, you will get the message to come on here because if I don't like it, you will have to hear it in person versus the text. But no, thank you very much, Roy, for taking the time. Thank you very much, Paris. I really appreciate you guys.
Nice meeting you, Roy.
Nice meeting you, Paris. Great episode. I really enjoyed doing it.
Great. Let's come back and do another one. Again, like and share, subscribe. Thank you for our watchers and our commenters. We really appreciate the comments.
Absolutely.
Subscribe, like, share, and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
See, Joe, the numbers don't lie.
That moolah, que eso, camouflage money, they can see my bankroll. I've been whipping, checo, smooth ass nigga, blame it on the J-Mo.